Hello, Mermaid. So, I've been asked a few times, whatever or not, it's okay to have a book of shadows that's completely digital. You save all of it on your computer. And the easy answer would be sure, if it works for you, by all means, there's no hard and fast rules here. But let me drop my 2 cents about that topic. Now, I think it really depends on what's the goal with your Book of Shadows. And remember, you do not have to have only one Book of Shadows, you may have more. For example, I have a notebook. I have it here somewhere. Let me just show you. This is my everyday Book of Shadows. It's dirty. Oh well. And I just basically write up things here, and it's just basically a notebook. Whenever I find a spell in the book or find a spell online, or I find a spell in my own mind, I make something up that I think I might want to use, I just copy it into that book, and because then I have it. And I mean, it's no fancy inks, no nothing, it's just a notebook. Now, I do plan to at some point, I'm just a bit lazy, so I haven't done it yet, get one of those nice bound books and just write with a quill and basically make a nice proper Book of Shadows. And I'm also planning to have basically a binder with all sorts of spells and rituals I think people might find useful. That will be more or less a public Book of Shadows, so that when I eventually start teaching others, I can say, here, take these, just photocopy them, just give me the original pages back, all this well. You don't need to have only one Book of Shadows. So for a lot of people, they do have a collection of all sorts of information about magic on their computers. And then they have a written by hand Book of Shadows that they use for rituals. So yeah, I mean, it really depends. For some people, the Book of Shadows becomes a ritual tool in and of itself. It is treated with extreme dignity. It is, you can say, it's almost like a Christian Bible, where you have spells, rituals, religious information, and so on and so forth, and it is often present on the altar during rituals and so on and so forth. And I would say that if that's what you're going to use it for, then having it on the computer might be a bit difficult. Of course, it's nothing that says you can't have your computer on your altar or one of those memory sticks. And I have a lot of spells that I've copied from online and such lying about. I'm considering just getting those little memory sticks, and I've seen some nice ones with pentacles on them and such. Just getting one of those and just putting all the magical information I have on my computer on that, well, copying it onto that, so I can just have that. So if I change my computer, I can just plop it back in. And you can do that, but there's something special, I think, about an actual book. A book have a certain smell, a feel to it, that I at least don't get from something digital. But you might be completely different there. Another thing you might want to take into consideration is, are you going to memorize all the spells you're going to use? Or do you read them from a book during ritual? Because if you memorize them, it doesn't really matter if you have memorized it from a computer page or if you have memorized them from a book. Then it's completely up to your preference. However, when you are going out into the forest to do your ritual, chances are it's easier to log along a book. And even if you are not doing it, if you're more urban like me, very seldom go out into the woods to do rituals. then when you are reading something by candlelight, for example, it's much easier to do that from a book. Now, granted, I have not tried some of those e-readers that have, artificial paper texture to the screen, so I cannot say if they will work as well in candlelight as actual book pages are. So I can't really comment on that, but when it comes to a PC screen or something like an iPad or something like that, that's often either it glows so that it sort of messes up the atmosphere, or if you set it to not glow, then it's really, really, really hard to read by candlelight. So for me, I prefer to have my Book of Shadows written up by hand. But it really depends on, do you want to put in the work for that? Do you prefer just to have a mass of spells? And I mean, there are some things that are really beneficial when it comes to having it on a computer as well. First of all, it's cheaper. If you're going to have a lot of material there, you'll run out of book pretty quickly. And you can basically have as much material as you want on your computer, as long as it's just text. A modern computer, it's not gonna fill up. And you also have that searchability. Didn't I write up a spell specifically to use bananas for a love potion a while ago? Yeah, banana, love potion, poof, there it is, instead of going through his notebooks and trying to find it. But for me, the whole point of ritual is that it helps my mind focus. I don't believe it's the rituals in themselves that causes magic to happen. I believe some correspondences and symbolism can have a power of its own, but for the most part, it's the practitioner that causes change to occur. However, the rituals help you manifest that because it helps you focus on it. And for me, it doesn't do the same to use a computer. Not that I haven't done that. It's quite a few times when I search the internet and say, that's an interesting ritual. It might be exactly what I need for this moment. And I just don't bother with writing it up. I just do it off the computer screen, easy as pie. But I do feel that I get more into it when I write it up in my Book of Shadows, and knowing me that I like it a bit of a flair for the dramatic in my rituals, I do believe I'll get even more of that once I get a nice tome with brass, what do we call it when you do closing things on books? Clasps? Yeah, we'll call them that for now. With brass clasps and all of that, that feels like some sort of tome right out of Dungeons and Dragons. I feel that I will get even more into it. But I mean, it's really up to you. Both things have both benefits and drawbacks. The benefits of having your Book of Shadows on your computer is that it is easy to copy. It can store a lot of information there. It's searchable and it's cheap. Because chances are you already have a computer, so just having a folder for such things, it's pretty cheap. The drawbacks of having it on the computer is that it's not easy to read in candlelight. And if you put the screen to actually shine, that can sort of mess up the ambience of it. It do need a power supply, so it is not often that easy, and is often somewhat heavy, so that easy to just lug along and use in the woods. I suspect those little tiny PCs, those, miniature ones, and tablets don't weigh really much more than a book, often less than a book, so that point is off. But anyway, you still have to drag it with you into the woods. There might be raining, there might be things that are bad for electronics there. It's not very practical. And of course, unless you make sure to do regular backups, there's a chance that a PC crash could end in your entire Book of Shadows going poof on you. When it comes to writing it down, well, the benefit is that it's easy to read by candlelight. For a lot of people, it gives more of a magical feeling to do a ritual of a book than with actual pages than to do so off a screen. And it's just easier to take out into the woods and so on and so forth, and a few drops of rain, while it might mar a book a little bit, it's not going to destroy it. Now, another thing that I can say in benefit of actually writing something down into an actual physical book is that writing something is a great way to help you remember something. If you are going to memorize a spell, write it down. It really helps. When I'm working with things like Armork, those Armork little booklets that you get, and important occult books like, for example, the Kybalion, I often sit down, I buy a notebook, and I copy the material by hand. Not necessarily to keep that copy, because, for example, Armork wouldn't really like it if you do that, but because it helps me memorize the material, get into the material, because you're working so much longer with it than if you just read it. So yeah, but at the end of the day, it really depends on what method do you prefer. Do you prefer to just have all of it on the computer, done with that? Or do you prefer to have it written down? I think like this with most things within the occult, it's really up to personal preference. I, however, strongly prefer to have my Book of Shadows as a physical book. Yes, I will collect spells and rituals and all of that off the internet and store that on my computer. And I even very often take the spells I write and I put them on my homepage. But the spells that I'm going to be using for quite a bit and so on, I usually copy down into my Book of Shadows. Because I like handling actual books. So yeah, that's my 2 cents. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Have a great day and blessed be. Oh, one more thing. I now have 550, a bit more than that, subscribers. And I'm so happy. I can't believe so many of you bothered to watch me ramble. So yeah, thank you. So yeah, that was it. Have a great day. Bye.